Alright, Chapter 4, The Birth of Excellence Belief. Man is what he believes, Anton Chekhov. In his wonderful book, Anatomy of Illness, Norman Cousins tell an instructive story about Pablo Picasso, one of the greatest magicians of the 20th century, and story of the belief of the renewal we can all learn from it. Cousins describing meeting Picasso shortly before the great Celli's 19th birthday. Cousins says that almost felt painful to watch the old man as he began his day with the frailty, with the arthritis of the word, debilitating as he needed him help in dressing. Emphysema was evident with labored breathing. He walked through the shuffle, stooped over, and he had pitched forward. His hands were swollen, his fingers clenched, and he looked like a very old, tired man. Even before eating, he made his way to the piano, one of the several instruments on which Picasso had become a proficient. He had great difficulty. He arranged himself on the piano bench. It seemed a terrible effort for him to bring a clenched and swollen fingers into the keyboard with something quite miraculous happened. Picasso suddenly, with a completely transformed himself before his cousin's eyes. He went with a reforceful sight. He did his physiology changes in such a degree. He began to move and play, producing both in his body with the piano result that it should have been possible only with a healthy and strong, flexible piano. As his cousin put it, with the fingers slowly the unlocks and reached for the door of the keys like buds for the power and plant toward the sunlight. He became his back straight and seemed to breathe more freely with a very thoughtful playing piano. Totally changed the state of the effectiveness of the body. With the Castells became the Bach Walpentier clavier, playing with the greatest sensitivity with the control. He launched Brahms' Concentro, and his fingers seemed to raise above the keyboard. The entire body seemed to have fused with the music, and Cousins wrote that it was not longer and stiff, shrunk, but supple and graceful, completely freed from the arthritis coils. By the time he walked away from the piano, he seemed entirely different from the person who sat down to play. He had straighter and taller. He walked without a tray for the shuffle, but immediately walked with the breakfast table, ate the hair heartily, then went on a stroll along the beach. We usually think of the terms of belief, the terms of the creed, of the doctrines, of what the many beliefs are, but in most basic sense, of the belief of the guiding principle of the dictum, faith of the passion from the provide with the meaning of the direction of the in life. Unlimited stimuli are available to us. Beliefs are prearranged, organized, and filtered with our perception of the world. Belief are like commanders of the brain. We are congruently believing something is true is life with the delivering commands of our brain is however the representative of occurring with a casual belief in the music and the art. That was given the order of the nobility into his life that could and still provide daily miracles for him because he had believed in the transcendent power of art. He empowered in a way that almost defies understanding. He believed that transformed him daily from the tired old man to a vital genius and in the most profound sense that kept him alive. John Stuart Mill once wrote that once a person believeth it equal to the 4 of the 99 who have only the interest that precisely with the belief that opened with the door and experience excellence. Belief delivers direct commands of the nervous system. When you believe something is true, you literally go into state being is true. Handling effectively belief that can most powerful the force of the creating and God your own life. On the other hand, belief is the limit of the action and the thoughts of the devastating, of the resourceful of the belief that can empowering. Religion throughout the history have empowered millions of people, giving them strength to do things that they couldn't do not. Beliefs helps them to tap the richest resource of the deep within us for the creating, the directing, of the resource of the support of the desired outcomes. Belief or the compass of the maps of the guidance to over the goals and gives us security even though that we'll get there without belief the ability to tap them. People that control the distant power of the looks like a motorboat without a motor, with a rudder, with a powerful guiding belief that we have the power to take action, create the world. We can live in and believe that helps you see the world and energize you getting it. In fact, there's no more power directing a force of the human behavior and belief of the excellence of the human history, of the history of the human belief of the people that have changed the history, whether the Christ, Muhammad, Copernicus, Columbus, Edison, or Einstein have been the people that have changed our beliefs, changed our behaviors. We have to start with our own belief that if we want to model excellence, we need to learn the model belief that those of the belief have achieved the excellence. The more we learn about human behavior, the more we learn about extraordinary power with the belief that have in our life. In many ways, the people have the power to define with the logical mind, but most of us have it. But clearly, even with the level of physiology, the belief of the congruent internal representation control reality. Remarkable study that done with a schizophrenia not long ago. One case involved a woman with a split personality. Normally, her blood sugar levels were completely normal, but she believed that she was diabetic. Her forced physiology changed to become over the diabetic. Her belief had become reality, and similar to the vein, there were numerous studies in which the person hypnotic trance with the touch with a piece of the ice represented to him a piece of the hot metal, invariably with a bliss for the developed the point of the contact with the countdown was not reality, but belief of the direct unquestioned communication from the nervous system of the brain simply does what it's told. Most of us are aware of the placebo effect. People who are told with the drug with a certain effect that will many times experience with the effect, even if they give it an empty pill with no active property. For the dormant cousin will have learned the first hand with the power of the belief of eliminating his own concluded drug are not always necessary with the belief that recovery is always one remarkable placebo study with the concern with a group of the patients of the leading of the ulcer with the divided into two groups of the people who in the first were told that they were given a new drug that would be absolutely produced with the relief, and in the second were told that they were given an experimental drug, but there were very little was known about the effect. It's almost 70% of those of the first group experienced significant relief of them with ulcers. Only 25% of the second group had similar results. Both cases, the patients received the drug with no medical properties at all. The only difference was the belief system they adopted. Even more remarkable, the numerous studies of the people who given the drug with known the harmful effects have experienced no ill effects, and then all when they told the experience of the positive outcome. Studies conducted in Dr. Andrew Weil shown the experience of the drug use correspond almost exactly their expectation. From they could lead a person to give the dose for the amphetamine to feel sedated, a person give the barbiturate to feel stimulated. The magic of the drugs reside within the mind, whether they use it or not in the drug. While concluded, all the incidents of one concept of the most powerful, the effective, the result of the belief of the consistent with the congruent message delivered to the brain with the nervous system for itself the power of the no truth of the magic that involved with the process of the belief that is nothing but a state, internal representation of the government behavior that enact, and it can be an empowering belief that is probability of the belief that will succeed at something and achieve it at something else. It can be a disempowering belief of the belief that cannot succeed. There are limitations clear and intractable, overwhelming with the belief that success of the empowered to achieve it. If you believe in the failure of the message, will tend you to believe in the experience as well with that. Remember what you say, but you can do with it something that you can't do with it right, with both kinds of the belief of the greater power of the question, what kind of belief of the area best available and best to have, and how we develop them, the birth of excellence, for the begins of the where, our awareness, our belief of the choice that we usually don't think of that way, the belief of the conscious choice of the choice, the belief of the limit of the choice, the belief of the support. The trick is to achieve the belief of the conducive of the success for the result of what you want, discover the ones that you hold you back. The business misconception people often have the belief that it is the static intellectual concept of the understanding that the divorce from the action and the result of nothing can be further from the belief, the truth of the belief at the doorway of the excellence of the precisely because there's nothing divorced or static about it. It's our belief that determines how much of our potential will be able to tap. Beliefs can turn on and off, shut off the flow of the idea of the imagine the following situation. Someone more says to you, please give me this level to ask you once for the next room to say, please I don't know where it is. After looking for a few minutes you call out, I can't find the shovel. Then someone walks up and takes a soul right off the shelf in front of you and says, look, dummy, it's right here in front of you. It was for you. It was a snake. It would have bitten you. And when you said, I can't, you give your brain a command that you cannot, not to see this shovel. The physiology we'll call it scotoma. Remember, every human experience, everything you ever said, whether you've seen, heard, and felt, or smelled, or taste, is stored in your brain. You can congruently say but it cannot. Remember that you're right, but congruently say you can. You give the command with the nervous system that opens for the up of the pathway, the part for the brain, competentially deliver the answer you need. Or they can because they think they can. Virgil. So again, with the belief of the performed or reorganized approach of the perceptions of the filter communication with the other side with a consistent behavior manner. Where did beliefs come from? Where do some people have the belief of the push toward the success, while the others have the beliefs that only help them to the fail? If you were going to try with the model of the belief of the foster excellence, the first thing we need to do is find out where the beliefs come from, the first source of the environment. This is where the cycle of success of the breeding, success of the failure, of the breeding, of the failure, of the play, of the outcome, of the most relentless fashion, of the real horror of the ghetto life. It's not daily frustration of the deprivation. People can't overcome The right real nightmare is the effect of the environment has on the belief of the dreams. If you all see with the failure, but they all see with the despair, but if you very hard with you from the internal representation that will foster success. Remember the last person broad chapter, we're modeling something we'll do consistently. If you grow up with wealth and success, you can easily model with wealth and success. If you grow up with poverty and despair, even when your model will possibly come from. Albert Einstein said a few people capable of expressing equanimity, opinion would be different with a prejudice of the social environment. Most of the people are incapable of forming such opinions. If one may advance course of the modeling, I do exercise where we find people that would live in the streets of the big cities. We bring them in the bottom of the belief system and the mental strategies. We offer the food with a greater deal of love than simply ask what would tell the group about their life, how they feel about what they are now, and what the beliefs they brings them our way. Then we contrast them with the people who, in spite of the great physical emotional tragedies, have turned their lives around. In recent session, we had one man with 28 years old, strong, obviously intelligent, physically fit, with a handsome face. We also saw he was unhappy living in the street, while W. Mitchell, who was least for the servant to have the fewer resources available to change his life, was so happy that Mitchell grew up in a home environment that provided example of the models of people who would overcome the greater out of the produced life of the joy. They created a belief in themselves that it was possible for me as well, and by contrast with this other young man called him John grew up out of an environment where no such models existed. His mother was a prostitute, his father was in jail from shooting someone, and he was 8 years old when his father shot him with heroin. Kind of environment will certainly play a role in which they believe it possible to live a little more than survival, how to achieve it. Live in the streets, live in the streets and steal and attempt to erase that you're paying through the drug with the belief of the people that always take advantage of you, and if you don't watch them, no one loves anyone. So on the night with the work, but this man changed his belief system as well explained in chapter 6. As a result, he never went back to the streets, and soon as that night he's been off drinking and began working. He's now newfound friends and living in a new environment and a new belief and producing new results. Dr. Benjamin Bloom at the University of Chicago studied 100 extraordinary successful young athletes, musicians, and students. He was surprised to find that most of the young prodigies did not begin by showing great flashes of the brilliancy. Instead, most received the careful attention, guidance, of the support that they began to develop, and believed that they could be special, but it came before any inadvertent sign of great talent. Environment may be the single most potent generator of the belief that it's not only one, but if they would live in a static world where children wealth would know, and only wealth and the children and poverty would never rise above the origins, and some of the other experiences of way of learning that can also be incubators of life events, small or large, cannot help but foster belief that certain events of everyone's life that we'll never forget. But where one of the day that John F. Kennedy was killed, the old enough as we remembered it, I'm sure we know that for many people, if it was to the day that forever altered the world view the same way. Most of us have an experience that we'll never forget. The instance of it that had such of the impact as they were installed into our brains forever. Those kind of experiences from the belief that can change your life. I was 13. I was looking for what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do in life. I decided I wanted to become a sports writer, caster. And one day I read a newspaper that Howard Cosell would be the autograph of the new book of the local department store. I thought, if I'm going to become a sportscaster, I need to start with interviewing professionals. When not start at the top, but I got to go to the school with a borrow the tape recorder. My mother drove me to the department store, and when I arrived at Mr. Cosell was getting up to leave, I began to panic, and he all surrounded me, reporters all fighting for his last comment. Somehow I ducked under several reporters' arms and approached Mr. Cosell, speaking in lightning speed. I told him what I was doing and asked him for the brief tape interview, and he does for the reporters waiting. Howard Cosell gave me a personal interview with the experience, changed my life, belief about what was possible and who was in my life was approachable, who the rewards were asking for, what I wanted. Because Mr. Cosell's encouragement, I went to write the daily newspaper to develop the career in the communication field. Third wave, the fastest belief of the three of the knowledge, is direct experience, one with the form over the knowledge, and another gained through reading, seeing, moving, viewing world is portrayed by others. The knowledge is one of the greatest waves at the back of the shack with a limiting environment. No matter how grim our world is, if you can read about it, accomplish it of others, you can create belief that will allow you to succeed. Dr. Robert Curvin, a black political scientist, wrote for the New York Times how, with the example that Jackie Robinson, the first black player in the major league, changed his life when he was young. Sure, that wrenched about my attachment to him and leveled over my expectations was raised by his example. The fourth way of the result of the creative through our past results. Surest way of the creative belief that you can do something and did it once, so just once with succeed once with far easier for him to believe that you'll succeed once again. I would write this first for the draft of the book within less than a month in order to make the deadline. I wasn't sure that I could do with it, but when I had to do with the chapter in a single day, I found I could do it. And once I had succeeded one, I knew that I could do it again. I was able to form the belief that allowed me to finish the book on time. Journalists learning something to write on with a deadline with a few things for life, the daunting from the knockout, the full story of the hour of the less under daily deadline pressure. Most beginning with a journalist dread more than any other part of their job, but they will find it out and they succeed once or twice. They'll know that they succeed in the future, but they don't need to go smarter or quicker as they're getting older. But once empowered with the belief that they can knock out the story whatever time is available when they find they can almost do it. The same is true for the comedians, business people, people in just about any other walk of life. Believing it can be done because of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Fifth wave of the establishing belief of the three of the creating with their mind, with the experience with the desired future of the where you be at, we're here now. Just experience with the chain with the internal representation, thus whether you believe it is possible, so can imagine with the experience with how you wave of the thing with the to be the future of the call of the experience. Result of the advance. I call this experience result in advance. When the result of the habit around you is not supporting that you believe in the powerful effect of the state, you simply create the world you want to be step of them in the experience with everybody change with your state, with your belief, with your actions. After all, with the salesman, it's easier to make $10,000 or $100,000. But the truth is, it is easier to make $100,000. Let me tell you why. If you have the goal to make $10,000, you're really trying to make it enough to pay with the bill. If your goal is, and if you want to represent yourself about what you're working so hard, you don't think that you will be able to excited and power the resourceful state as you work and seeing something excitement in with the thinking with a boy, oh boy, I don't get to work. If I've got to work, I can make enough pay to pay my lousy bills. I don't know about it, but that doesn't get my motor running. But selling is selling. When you never make the same call with me, the same people to deliver the same product, no matter what you're hoping to achieve. So with lots of excitement, a lot more with excitement to go out with the goal of making $100,000 than $10,000. The state of excitement is more likely to activate with the taking of the kinds of consistent actions that will tap your higher potential than just hoping to get out and making a living. Obviously, money is not only with the motive to yourself, but whatever the goal may be, with creating your mind clear with the image of result that you want to represent with yourself, if it already achieved, that you will go into the kind of the state of the support your creating result of the desired. All these things are ways to mobilize with the belief that most form of our beliefs are haphazardly. We soak up things for the good and bad for the world around us, but one key for the idea within this book that you're not just a leaf in the wind. If you can control your beliefs, you control the ways that model others. You can constantly direct your life. You can change. If there's a key in this world, in this book, that is that you must ask the most basic question. What are some of the beliefs that I have about what you are and you're capable of? Please take a moment and jot down 5 key beliefs that have limited you in the past. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now make a list of 5 positive beliefs you can now serve to support your achieving highest goals. One of the premises we hold is every statement that we make for the day relative to the time that is made. If not, the statement is the universal truth. It's true only with a certain person at a certain time. The subject of the change, but if the negative belief system show for the how did you change, how to know what some harmful effects would have, but essential to realize that belief systems that are not imputable in the length of the hair of your affection for a particular kind of music, or the quality of your relationship with a particular person, the driving the Honda, but the decide with what happens with the Chrysler, Cadillac, and Mercedes is empowered to change your internal representation belief that works with much for the same way. If you don't like that, you can change them. We all have a hierarchy ladder of belief, the core belief that things are the fundamental, we would die for them. There are things like our ideas of patriotism, family, and love. The most people, most of our life, the governed belief of the possibility of success happening if the people constantly over the year of the keys to take the belief to make sure that they work for you and effective and empowering. We talked about the importance of the modeling. The modeling excellence began with the modeling belief. Some things take time with the model. If you could read, but think, if they hear, you can model the belief. The most successful power people on the planet. When Paul Getty started in his life, he made up his mind to find out about belief of the most successful people. He went out of them, modeled them, and he constantly modeled his belief of those most great leaders reading the autobiography of their libraries teaming against the action for how they produce the particular any result they want. What do your personal beliefs? Do they come from the average man on the street? Do they come from TV or radio? Do they come from whatever the belongs? And the lives of people who want to succeed, it was wise from the choice of the belief that carefully rather than walking around them like a piece of flying paper, picking up the belief and it sticks. The important thing to realize with the potentials we tap the result that we get all part of the dynamic process that begins with a belief. I like to think of the process in terms of following diagram. Let's say a person believes in effective something, let's say what they told themselves the more bad student, if to be an expectation of the failure, with how much of the potential is going to tap. Not very much. He has already told himself that he doesn't know. He's already signaled that his brain expects failure. It's become with the sort of the expectation, so the action will be probably take. Will they be confident, energized, controlled, with the assertive, with the reflect, with the road to real potential, not likely if they conceive and going to fail. Why make the effort to try hard? So if you start with a belief system, let's start with what can you do with the system, subsequently signals you with the nervous system to respond a certain way to tap limited amount of potential for the taking the half-hearted and the attentive action. Some result comes from all of this. The changes that they're pretty dismal with, but all of the dismal will do with the result. Your belief subsequent endeavor to change the are they'll reinforce the negative belief at the start of the whole chain. In this formula for success, LA readers are a bunch of Bolinians. What we have here is the classic downward spiral of the failure breeds failure for the people that are unhappy to live in the broken life they often been without resolve of the desire so long that they no longer believe that they can produce the results and show the potential action result in the belief in a circle. They want to do little, nothing to tap the potential for the being trying to find out whether they can get their life with wherever they're doing little as possible for such action where resolve to achieve. Of course, as a miserable result, but they break down with the belief that even more if it is possible. Good timber does not grow with ease. It's stronger than the stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. John J. Willard Mary. Let's look at this from another direction. Let's say you begin with a great expectation, more with the expectation you believe the will, every fiber of the being with the will succeed. Starting with a direct and clear communication, what you know to be true with much of the potential of the will, you probably with a good deal of the kind of the actions are generally taken at this time are going to drag yourself out with a taking a half-hearted shot at it, but of course not with the excitement, with the energy that you have, with a great expectation of success. You're going to get great guns if you put out the sorts of the effort over the result will be generating chances of they will be pretty good at what to do with the belief and the ability to do with a great result in the future. For the opposite of the vicious cycle within the cave success feeds, and the success generates more success. Each success creates more belief momentum to succeed at even a higher scale. You reinforce people screw up, so whatever they do affirmative for the people to guarantee for the results every time. Of course, now that if any one of these have got the magic formula to guarantee perpetual flawless success of that button, let's grab your wallet and start walking in the opposite direction. Both history and shown time and again and again, people that maintain the belief system empower them. They keep going back for enough action, enough of the resources to succeed. Eventually, Abraham Lincoln lost some important elections, but he continued to believe in his ability to succeed in the long term. He allowed himself to empower by success. He refused to be cowed by failures. His belief system geared toward excellence. He finally achieved it. He did, and he changed history of the country. Sometimes it's not necessary to be tremendously believe with the attitude that something is in order to succeed. Sometimes people produce the outstanding results simply because they don't see something difficult or impossible. Something just not having limiting belief enough. For example, the history of the young man was falling asleep during math class. He woke up as the bell rang and locked up with the blackboard, copied two problems that were there. He assumed that they were the homework for the night. When they went home, labored all day and all night. He wouldn't figure out either one, but keep trying for the rest of the week. Finally, he got his answer. One of them brought it into class. The teacher was absolutely stunned. He turned out the problem he solved with a substitute that unsolved them was supposedly unsolvable. If the student had known, they probably wouldn't have solved it. But since he didn't tell himself that it couldn't be done, in fact, quite the opposite. He thought he had to solve it and was able to find a way to do it. Another way to change belief in an experiment is to disprove it. Another reason why do fire walk? I don't care for the people that walk on fire. I don't care for the people that do something and thought was impossible. If you can do one thing you were utterly impossible, it causes you to rethink your beliefs. Life is a subtler, more complex. Some of us like to believe. So if you don't have already able to review your beliefs and decide which ones you might change now, what would you change those beliefs to? Next question is figure out below concave or convex. Simple question. Answer depends on how you're looking at it. Reality is you create if you have positivity. Internal representation belief that becomes that if you create the negative ones, you created them to any number of belief that foster excellency. But I've picked up 7 that strike me in particular important. I call them the 7 lies of success.